Hello and welcome to Weekly Open. I'm Ledger. We got Luke, Don, Josh. We're brought to
Why
you
was
by...
I last? Why was I last?
I don't know. You just
Go
were.
ahead.
Put a picture on and I would say your name first. We are brought to you by FTX, formerly Blockfolio. Go to weeklyOpen.com/FTX. Check it out today. You can swap directly from one asset to another. It is a seamless, quality experience on a mobile-first what's that called? Mobile-first trading today. All right, Josh.
Where did your volume go during that?
Ledger, I don't want to cut you off, but you trailed off just like the music faded out.
Really? Well,
You're back.
okay, whatever.
The video played, so video and music work.
We're back,
Fading again. Fading again.
It's Monday
Volume
morning.
decline. Okay.
We're back.
We didn't die over the Senate stuff. What's going on? What does the duck have to say about it all? Because he's not even, in the United States. So
No, I mean, like prices go up, and the thing is, I think like people take whenever something like that happens, people are way too like focused on it instead of just like looking at the chart. And I mean, the chart broke out, so it was like bound to go up, I think. But yeah, the entire US, like the world isn't entirely focused around the US anymore. It used to be that way, now not so much. So it's like not the end of the world, I think, whenever something happens. Like whenever the US does something stupid, like it's not the end of the world. It's the same with the EU, right? Like the EU does something stupid and still like other countries out there. So is what it is what I'm saying. Look at the chart and then see that like look, it wants to go up and it did go up. So pretty straightforward, I think.
Just look at the chart, man.
that's a show. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yep.
We got
But
to be fair, like I haven't had much time to look all into like the US stuff too much because I've been pretty busy the last few weeks. So
I was just wondering if it's confusing to anybody outside the US, like what's going on, or
100%. But I mean, that's like me always with this kind of stuff. Like goes way above my head. I'm so simple. I look at the chart and then say up or down because everything else is too complicated for me.
yeah, you're right. Here it's like the sky is falling, everything's a big deal. But go ahead, Ledger.
I honestly think that if you just treated it as the chart, this one would have been easier because the chart looked fine and the news was very scary, and that made it difficult to trade. Like if you were trying to risk off or whatever because you felt like the legislative news was too bad, it would have tricked you basically, right? Because we're sitting here and legislative news wasn't great, but we look pretty good. We're at 46,000. We cleared the 200-day moving average. Things look nice,
Yeah, and this thing still has to get voted on in the Senate. It has to get passed in the House, and then it takes 2 years to actually kick in. So it's not like immediate death and devastation, but it's not great.
Yeah. I have a lot of lines on my chart, but I'll just go ahead and highlight what is most important to me, which is Bitcoin reclaiming the 200-day moving average. In my world, that's a huge deal. Also, the 20-week moving average, which historically is like omega bullish for Bitcoin. Now, it needs to get a close above it. Last week, it closed right at it. But this is like extremely, extremely bullish historically. This is a freaking get in, stay in until you lose it, get chopped up, whatever else. But it is a great risk-reward trade for me historically. ETH led the way on the same thing. And all of this like leads me to say, freaking A, we're just going to double bubble this thing until it tells me we're not supposed to. at the same time, like as you're showing on the screen here, you know, it maybe are we being lured in towards resistance? You know.
Yeah, I need to re-add the like white coffee and whatever from over here, because that's where we're retesting, and that's also the cloud level. Like it's
And that's
just a
that's part of why I say I want to see a weekly close like be able to claim these levels with strength. Like if you get a really crappy candle and it ends up weak because somewhere on a daily pumps up into all this other stuff and then it goes back down and closes the week below 44, that would not be good. Basically, I want to see 44, maybe 45 plus, so that the candle wouldn't look like trash. Be maintained on the weekly.
Yeah, at this point we're all gravy. We're above my important level, which is the 200-day EMA at 38, and we're teasing a golden cross on the EMAs. So, you know, let us go down. The worst thing we don't want to see here is head and shoulders. Hopefully people can like pre-predict this stuff, just like we saw it here. You know, we didn't want this and it didn't break down. There was even a head and shoulders actually on like low time frames that didn't break down right here. It just is like, no, we're going up. But yeah, looks good. Luke, what do you think?
I mean, I think what you mentioned, Josh, on the news and kind of how I've thought about it before I even think about structure, it's like Bitcoin going up. Yes, it's not decided. There could still be a vote, but probably the bad outcome happened here in the U.S. But the U.S. matters less, and people are also realizing. I think the biggest benefit of so many people paying attention to what's happening with the infrastructure bill is a lot of people realizing, holy shit, like the effect won't be, even in the worst outcome, as bad as people thought. And I think initially when the reports came out about what was going on with the infrastructure bill, it was this idea that if we get this wrong, you know, Bitcoin and ETH and everything is just screwed. And like, that's just not the case. So, you know, as we look at Bitcoin above the range, like that's been the biggest structural shift. Sure, now we're in an area 45, 46 that should provide resistance, but it's like the shift has happened. Like we avoided breaking down from the range. We broke up. So if anything, like let's say we do pull back. Let's say 46K is strong resistance. It's totally the game. You know, is it going to be an extended bear market? It's now shifted that towards what dip can I buy, which is positive.
Let's talk about the legislative stuff for a minute. So Jerry Brito from Coin Center said it's not over, but it's over type of thing. But it sounds like they have a chance this morning of passing something that is slightly different than the original language, but there was also statements on the floor to provide some clarity, and there's an opportunity for some fixes to occur like in conference. But all in all, it seems like there is some bipartisan agreement that things are trash, or that the current language isn't good and that it needs to be fixed. And it sounds like there's enough interest to be able to essentially fix this after the fact. So that's actually good news. Even though if the language passes poorly, like it could get kind of de-dramatized, I don't know if that's the right word, later. So I feel like that's part of why the market's shrugging it off today, which is good. Like that's what you want to see, like people realizing that that the language as done was poor, and they don't want to like destroy blockchain technology in America. So from a legislative standpoint, I'm not as bearish as I was.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think whenever you have, this is like the easiest way to judge like market strength. Whenever you have bad news, like you have to figure out, okay, is this news bad or not? I mean, that should be relatively easy. And then you just check, okay, how's the market treating it? And if it's not dumping, or if it's like briefly dumping and then engulfing whatever it's dumped, like that's just typically bullish. And then when the chart looks bullish on top of that, it moves. And I think that's just what happened, right? I mean, you just see people don't panic sell, or like panic selling gets absorbed and then markets melt upwards. I mean, it's pretty nice. Can't complain. Like for me, chart wise, and I can quickly share. There hasn't been like a good reason to be bearish for quite a while now. And with like the break of 40.5, 40.5, like that was the breakout kind of that I was hoping for, and we closed above it and it just immediately went up. And that's been like a nice
Don Placebo Dealer asked if we think it could still be a bull trap. What do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, it could be. It's just like, for me, like, I don't want to be bearish, like, unless this starts breaking down stuff again, right? So the same thing that I've been saying, I don't want to be bullish until it reclaims like up in the 60Ks on this left side. I don't want to be bearish unless it starts breaking 40K again, because like that's a pretty neat invalidation. Like, let's say this breaks down, and Josh painted this earlier, and it does like head and shoulders thing. I think this would be too clean to not play out at least a tiny bit. So like, that's where I think I would be starting to kind of reconsider. But until then, like, yeah, this could be a complacency bounce. Yeah, I mean, who knows, right? But I'm not really interested in being bearish here.
At what point do you say, all right, yeah, it's just a bull trap. It's just a bull trap. Then we're at like 50, 60. It's like, oh, it's just a bull trap.
yeah, that's exactly right. I think like in general, that's like why this rally has been like it's been, which has been just basically vertically up, because you have a bunch of people, and I talked about this at the lows, where it's like, where do you buy back? And no one could answer like that question. Like whoever I asked, like, where do you buy back? Like, you look at this chart and there's so many resistances, so much stuff there. There's not an easy level, right? And then, like you said, if it goes above 50K, do you buy back there? If it goes above 60K, do you buy back there? And the answer is like, everything about that sucks, right? Buying anywhere here sucks.
Buy price discovery.
I mean, yeah, you could do that. Probably not like the worst idea, but at that point, like, let's say you haven't bought and then it goes into price discovery, you're so deep into Copeland that
you probably won't.
Yeah, you probably won't.
That's
you
how,
get, like,
this is
you
how,
start hating Tether or shit. Like, that's how that works.
Dude, I swear I just was about to say this is how Bitfinex got created. He sold all his coins one year and on a dump or something, and then he just never bought back in because he was coping too hard and became Bitfinex. At least that's the story I heard. Yeah. So I recently called this a sideline trap more than like a bull trap or a bear trap, whatever. But I guess a bear trap would have been what that dip below 30K was, because the relentlessness of everything since, it just never gave a great entry for the people on the sidelines, like you said. And it wasn't like we were overly directional in funding or sentiment. There was a pretty good mix. But like, when do you buy back? I know people in real life that they sold some and then they're like, now what?
Yep.
Which presents a challenge. And I think the patient investor here is going to wait for some degree of consolidation. And I don't know how you do it other than that, or having confidence on large dips. Like if you get, if you're looking at your chart, this is aside from what I said earlier, but like if you're looking at 40K or something there, you might be able to swoop in there with some degree of confidence. That would disagree with what I was talking about, but that looking at your nice horizontals, that's where I'd want to be a buyer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like for me, if this is really bullish, it could just keep going, honestly. And like, that's the thing about these rallies and why you got to be so careful. Because I mean, if they don't give you an entry and you have no plan to like buy on the breakouts, right? That's why I talked about like 40.5K so much, because I was like, okay, if this goes back up there, like you have to chase it, or you're just gonna have to wait a shitload of time. And I mean, most people are gonna wait first, and then it goes up, and then they're gonna be impatient, and then they're gonna buy, and then it dips, and then they're fucked, right? That's how it always works. So yeah.
Can we shift our focus a little bit to ultrasound money?
What is that? I've never heard of that.
So Ethereum has burned almost 18,000 ETH. Something called Space Poggers has burned 567 ETH in the last 24 hours, which is more than OpenSea. So shout out to them. I found it interesting to see the summaries of where burned ETH is coming from. On a total basis, like something like a third of the ETH supply is coming off on average currently. That'll change significantly. I understand that, but undoubtedly we're seeing a tremendously bullish response from Ethereum. EIP 1559 was not a sell the news event. It's been nothing but up. The only down we had slightly was in regard to regulatory stuff, and that got swooped back up very quickly. As at a minimum, it seems like proof of stake language is going to be, fixed in that bill. But nevertheless, we can just ignore all the legislative stuff from now on, I guess, because we don't know all the answers yet, and the market shrugged it off. So, I mean, ETH looks insane, don't you think?
Ledger, I'm curious. You said that a third of the supply is being burned, a third of what was usually emitted, right?
Yeah. So until proof of work is gone, there's 2 ETH per block as a base block reward. Then you see kind of how much is burned in every block in these types of summaries. Sometimes it's almost nothing, and then sometimes it's a lot. And on a cumulative basis, I think I have to do the math, but it's like there's been maybe 4,000 ETH per day or so being burned, and the daily emissions are 12 or 13,000. I can't. Yeah, this is just off the top of my head. Excuse me if I don't say it explicitly correct, but yeah. So about a third of the standard proof of work emissions are currently being burned. This is going to change as wallets and other stuff creates default support for 1559, because what happens right now is if you don't create support for 1559, MetaMask shows the old interface, and the old interface then converts to the new format of burning the base fee and providing the miners a tip, and it tends to overcompensate. So in that case, like you're giving a larger tip, or like, I don't know, things can be a little goofier. You might end up paying more gas. So we'll see if things adjust a little bit as all these dApps actually support the 1559 format, which has better estimates of what the gas should cost. So it's it's been a pretty great response, pretty much exactly what you would want if you're bullish Ethereum, especially in the face of a bunch of other stuff going on.
I mean, stuff could have gone wrong too, right? So
yeah, it could have just had a bad launch.
Yeah, the fact that it didn't, I mean, it's pretty nice. With regards to the chart, like I've been talking about, like if you're gonna see like a complacency bounce, it's gonna be into 3.2K, and we're right there. So I don't want to be like too overly enthusiastic, but like given I'm not bearish on Bitcoin, like it doesn't make much sense to be bearish ETH. But yeah, I think this is like the resistance on the chart. Like if that breaks, I think we're gonna go parabolic, and if it doesn't, I mean, you're gonna see a pullback. What you don't want to lose is like the middle 2K area. So like 2.3, 2.4, that should hold. But yeah, like that's been ever since basically we broke down. I've been saying like 3.2K, like that's where you want to be looking to short. Now we're there, and I'm not entirely sure if I want to like tell people to short 3.2K anymore. Just based on the fact how it looks, right? Like generally speaking, what you want to be shorting, at least in my experience, it's like there's 2 ways to get to resistance, right? There's one where it just goes straight to resistance and then usually pulls back. And there's this other one where it like crawls into resistance and then it just blows the lid off. And that kind of looks more like what we're having right here. So like I'd be a little bit scared on the short side, probably wouldn't take it. If anything, rather be buying like dips. But that disagrees with what I've said, like back at lower prices. So maybe I'm just kind of coping at resistance, being like at least somewhat bullish, but yeah.
That's how I talked on the last show about, 44K would hit before we talked next. And I've been talking about how much 44K was a magnet, but I was also like, and 44K might be a place where we sell everything similar to ETH here with 32, 33. It's definitely a place to risk off, but I feel like sentiment needs to be a factor in how you determine if you're going to do that or not. Or you just wait and see, like you're willing to take a drawdown, right? If it fails it, so that you don't miss the blast through it if it isn't treated as the resistance it's supposed to be. Because, like you said, these things can blast right through. So,
yeah, I actually like that idea. Like, let's say you bought the low, so you bought like 2.3K, right? Like betting on this bull market to continue with the risk of it just like kind of creeping back to your entry, and then okay, this was probably like the macro complacency shoulder. I mean, that seems like a decent trade-off to me. Like, you don't have to just be super scared here and then be super annoyed when it actually does start going parabolic because you don't get an entry. You can just hold through it, as long as you kind of keep in mind that this could be like the complacency shoulders. Like, if we do turn back down here and then start breaking supports, it would look like, okay, that's like the macro top for ETH. But like, at this point, you can't tell, right? And it could just as well be the point where it starts going parabolic, in my eyes anyway. So yeah, depends on your stance on it. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, as long as the NFT bullshit, which is what it is popping off, then it's hard to be bearish ETH. It's like the ICO stuff. I said this over and over again. As long as ICOs are popular and people are spending money and throwing ETH at junk, horseshit, right? Like, ETH is gonna keep going up. That's simple. There's a Moon Overlord. He's a great Twitter follow, but he mentioned this yesterday that the NBA Top Shot market cap has doubled in a week. Like, even if you think all this stuff is crap, like I do, you still have to pay attention to this, because that's what's fueling a lot of this right now. And EIP 1559 has obviously helped that tremendously, but yeah, you got to pay attention to the NFT stuff. We're joking about fluffs at the beginning, but yeah, I opened Twitter and it's penguins, it's all the junk, right? Like, it's whatever. But there's a reason, space poggers. There's a reason ETH is going up, and it's very clearly these NFTs just fueling spec mania.
Josh, you just don't understand this new paradigm of the metaverse.
that could be very true as well. I'm too much of a boomer.
Sorry.
The other nice thing about NFTs is, unlike ICOs, like when that cycle's dead, everyone has to dump their ETH, and the ICO treasury's done, and it's very reactive to the downside. Like, I'm not sure NFTs have that. Sure, NFT bubble mania could pop, and basically a lot of people that have their NFTs, they're just going to lose a lot of money if they got in at the wrong time. But they don't necessarily have like a massive treasury of ETH to dump. And I think, if anything, if NFTs, like, when this hype cycle dies down a little bit, I think there's going to be tons of cycles. I think, as ETH goes up, it makes DeFi more attractive. People's optimism around DeFi goes up. So I think any NFT drop in activity, I think DeFi will kind of fill the gap.
Holding NFTs is shorting ETH is what I've heard before, and I think it's good.
Really?
Yeah, and because you're selling Ethereum for pixels, and a lot of times, if you are bullish Ethereum, you probably shouldn't be as bullish on your NFTs. So if they both go up together, it just means a lot of people are entering the market. But yeah, in general, I think that's a reasonable way to think about it.
Yeah, I've had another take, which I've also liked. I mean, it's really hard to judge right now, but like, if you think about it, as ETH holders get richer, their kind of pain threshold to pay for like garbage is gonna rise higher and higher, right? So as like their net worth increases, you could argue that they're gonna buy dumb and dumber shit, as is tradition, and that would be NFTs, right? So you could make the argument for both sides. Like, ETH goes up, they get richer, they're gonna spend more money on stupid shit. But yeah, I haven't decided like which makes more sense to me. So I'm just like, I'll let people do whatever they want with their money and see how it turns out.
While we're talking about things that scare us about the market, Doge bounced off of support.
Let's go.
The 200-day, the 200-day on both pairs, Doge BTC. Somebody last week was talking to me, or like somebody since last week was like, dude, when you were bearish Doge at weekly open, I bought. I was like, dude, it went down like 4 days in a row after that.
like 2 weeks in a row it went down.
A month, whatever. It's like these pops are for selling on Doge still. However,
I don't know
if it could this will be a complacency bounce. I think this will overall lag versus Bitcoin and ETH especially. But it did, it just grinds up this moving average, sustains it, and got a little pop off of it. And then on the BTC pair, got a huge move relative to BTC off the 200-day. I don't want to be anywhere near it, but I just bring it up because if Doge speculation hits any kind of degree like it did before, that's going to be my smoke signal to get out.
I like that. I honestly think in general with Doge, like with these bounces, right, they can be bigger than we expect them to be. And I mean, I talked about this with Bitcoin too, right? Like these bounces can be much bigger. And I mean, this could be the reversal. I'm in your boat where I think I think the Doge cycle is through. That said, if you look back, and I mean, I always compare Doge to XRP last cycle, and I quickly show this, like how this worked out, right? Doge BTC here, you get like every pump that you get kind of gets sold into, right? And every Elon tweet that you get just sees further and further selling. And then you compare this to XRP in 17. Look at this. You've had the same exact structure.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, it is. It's like people trying to get out of this thing. And I think it's like the thing is with XRP, we've had the same thing here, right? Where it's just like every pump gets sold into, and at some point you get a massive pump. And I still think there's a good chance that Dogecoin is going to do something like that.
And that's when you short it.
Yeah, that's when you either short it or just exit and then just never touch it again. And I think that's kind of like, that should be the plan. And then you're going to see this again. Like this, like you get a brutal drawdown the entire way down, then you get like a squeeze, maybe even a second leg, and then it starts over. And then you get the same thing over and over and over again. And I think that's going to be how Dogecoin is going to play out.
Bitcoin Cash had a very similar spike like that. I remember back in the day.
Yeah. And I mean, on the weekly, right, if you look at Doge, because I've seen, like when I came back, I saw a bunch of people post about like the Doge bounce and how big it was. And I mean, it didn't even reverse like the last red candle, basically. So I would be careful on this one. But like I said, there's going to be huge upside at some point, and then people are going to talk about the reversal, and then it's going to dump again.
Yeah.
So
I actually don't disagree with that. I like the analogy a ton with XRP. I think on a long term, I think that's exactly how it'll play out. Short term, though, in the past week, this is the first time I've bought Doge. I've never been a Doge holder before. I bought at 22 cents. I bought again this morning. And this might sound like a really dumb thesis, but like let's say speculation is clearly a return. Risk on's back in crypto. Who knows how long it lasts, but it's here. Like if Bitcoin does keep rising, let's say it pushes through 46, ETH is doing great. I think Doge, in a way, like if you're an average investor and you see people aping $1 million in CryptoPunks, you see people buying really dumb shit every single day, and you kind of want to play into that or have fun.
No.
I almost think like Doge is like, it's like the entry level for people to buy like dumb shit, like to join in a way, not the metaverse, but into like to join the meme economy. And I think as speculation returns, as risk on returns, I think Doge could go up just because of that. I don't know. Short-term fun swing.
Do you really think people identify all the other stuff as dumb and will also see Doge as dumb? Or is you, as right curve, are just saying this will go right alongside all the dumb stuff?
That's kind of what I mean. I'm not saying that people buying NFTs will be the people buying Doge. I'm saying, like, imagine if you're another trader and you see really dumb shit going up, or you see, for all intents and purposes, fluffs and all these other things. As an average investor, you're seeing that, you're like, oh my God, bunnies are up. Oh my God, penguins are up. It's like, especially if you've already bought Doge, you were a part of the movement that brought it early this year from like a penny up to 50 cents. You're gonna be like, I like Doge, right? Like, I don't know about penguins. I can't afford a penguin for $10,000. I can get 1,000 Doge though. And I think, like, who knows? Like, maybe I'm totally wrong on that. certainly not saying Doge is a smart investment, but from a thesis perspective, as risk continues to fill up here in crypto and people's ability to spend money on dumb shit, I think Doge just like perfectly fills that slot for a much bigger percentage of people than I think a lot of people realize.
I think that's like not the worst kind of view of the market. Like if Dogecoin kind of sustains to the upside, what you can do is just play that and then just exit again, crypto again. Like let's say Dogecoin pumps like 100% or like 200% from here, right? Which, I mean, it's crypto, anything can happen. I think that's just going to be like the exit signal again, whenever you get like Dogecoin and let's just said this earlier, or any other like Shiba or that kind of stuff, when that goes too crazy, crypto gets unattractive because it's just way too much speculation in it. So, I mean, if you want to play the game of, okay, stupid people are going to do this and that, I mean, I don't think that's the worst play to make. Yeah.
Sheep in the chat just said his friend is about to quit his job from selling penguins. It's like the best thing ever.
Oh my God.
Tell him to sell his penguins, please. If he's going to quit his job, he needs liquidity too. So sell the penguins.
Oh man.
So good.
The NFT stuff is so crazy. Should we talk about that? Because I mean, holy shit.
Yeah, I'd love to talk
I love
about
it. I love it.
To talk about. We already talked about it.
Yeah, we just mentioned prices.
Literally, it's dumb, it's stupid, it's spec, it's hype, it's the worst things of society all bundled together. Okay, what else?
Is it though?
Josh,
I don't know if it's that bad. Like my axes are feeding families around the world, man. You gotta. I mean, there's some NFTs doing good.
Josh,
I'm serious.
Josh. It's been some of the easiest money ever, though. Like, you just have to turn your brain off. It's probably too late now. I don't want you to do it. If you do it, I'm selling. But it's honestly been pretty easy money because people are just willing to speculate on anything. There's been some hilariously bad collections, but they all sell out. All the ones when they have these mint prices like sub 0.1 ETH, they sell out just on the hope of it's a lotto ticket type of play. It's like scratch offs, but NFT version. I do want to talk about the DeFi perp with our remaining time, or some of our remaining time. Then maybe we can joke more about which collections we like. The DeFi perp looks strong, similar to ETH, but it's definitely, at least in my mind, more in this kind of danger zone, if you will, of like what's gonna, where are we gonna find big resistance? I think the DeFi perp 10K is the number. If y'all are looking at that pair, 10K is probably the number where it looks like it's really flipped and might have a chance to zoom up. There's like a 50% plus move above that. Within individual assets, I'm more or less bullish, and it's hard to trade like on that exact the cumulative version of it, but like comp still looks good to me, and some of these are at the most risk from all this regulatory stuff. Curve is consolidating, but looks fairly strong. Let's see, what else do I have on my list? Sushi looks like it's bucked its downtrend. And then like some look okay, but a little weaker. Like Wi-Fi seems to still be lagging a bit. Aave looks like one of the stronger ones. Are y'all paying much attention to these things, or what are your thoughts? Uni's another one that really reclaimed better than I expected that it would. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, all the charts look the same a couple weeks ago, and they're all sort of playing out as ETH is playing out. So
one other element of it I forgot to mention is the risk is that versus ETH, they all look like crap, right? Like the DeFi perp versus ETH chart, you're probably losing in a diversified portfolio if you're picking specifics, and you have a chance to win, but this tells you that there's not a rush to be in DeFi relative to ETH. So that's the counterpoint to that.
I mean, I want to claim some cloud of like on that, because I've been saying like ETH, just focus on ETH, and I still think that's the case.
Yeah,
Like,
that chart tells you to do it, right?
yeah, like ETH BTC, like in general, like right now, given we've had EIP, we've had like these news events and like this new situation in ETH, I just think it makes a lot of sense for ETH to either, like ETH's going to outperform, I think, whether like that's going to be to the upside, right, or to the downside. Like let's say ETH goes down, I think DeFi goes down harder, and I think if ETH goes up, I think DeFi might have like a little bit of a lag to it, right? I think like DeFi is going to be an interesting play again once ETH, like let's say ETH does go up and then go sideways higher up. I think that's when DeFi is probably going to catch up again. But until then, I think it's just like it makes sense to focus on ETH. I don't think like you can outperform it, and I mean you can outperform it with NFTs, you can outperform it with a bunch of stuff right now. But like just from a risk kind of viewpoint, I think there's much less risk in ETH, so it's more interesting to me. That's my view on it. So I focus on ETH more than on the other altcoins.
Yep. I think DeFi will act like the higher. I think DeFi will just act like a higher beta ETH, and I think the reflexivity here is as ETH does better. I said this a second ago, but it's like even if less people are using DeFi than they were at the beginning of the year, it's just optimism that if ETH is doing well, DeFi will do well. So like, sure, maybe it lags right now and ETH is the better pure play, but like ETH going up just means the chance of all these DeFi protocols surviving and doing well in here go dramatically. So it's like, if ETH, it's a simple if then. It's like if ETH is doing well, it makes sense to look at DeFi. If ETH is doing poorly, I don't know, just not that interested.
One of the things I've noticed recently is some of the further down the market cap list DeFi stuff has started to perform better than blue chips, which might be similar to that NFT comment, you know, like going down the chain of the derivative gains. And that shows to me that profits will probably funnel back into ETH as people get more and more hyped up going down that line. I think it's overall indicative that dips are for buying on Ethereum.
I mean, you could even take profit. Like if you want to long your longs, you take your ETH profits, your ETHUSD profits, and buy DeFi. That's what I'd be doing personally.
So you think DeFi is probably on a relative bottom?
I think DeFi, the DeFi perp has a little ways to go versus ETH, where sure, like we talked about, big go parabolic, but you know, it's up 80% from July. 80%. What is going on?
I was just looking at Badger as an example of one of those mid caps off the lows, and it's 4x off its lows. It bottomed July 21st. Under $7, and it's at 29 now. 28. Yeah. Like some of these got beaten up really badly. Like this was over $100, I think, at the highs, but even on the Binance related high, it went down 90%. So yeah.
I don't hate taking NFT profits into DeFi. I don't hate taking ETH or BTC USD profits into DeFi. And I don't hate just holding USD to buy the dip, because the dip's gonna happen. It might take a month, but it's gonna happen, you know. So I just think people need to be patient if they're super out of it, because we've looked gross in a bullish way the entire way up here, right? There's been 2 down candles in like 16 days. It's nuts. 19 days. Like what? How are you supposed to get in on ETH when we're only going up, literally up only for 19 days? It's crazy.
It's fun.
I'm loving it. It's great, but it's an uncomfortable position when like I want to be leveraged long. I don't want to leverage long the top, and the moment I leverage long, it's going to be the top, right? Like that's the fear.
Yeah, I think it makes it hard to be on leverage, which is amazing for people that are actually on leverage and comfy, you know?
Yeah.
One other element of all the DeFi trades that I like is that some of them have, if they have that mean reversion trade, like they have these nice relative magnets on them. And that's what I've pointed to several times, but I'm just a small brain that likes to see things hit the 200-day moving average. Go from the 20 to the 200. Like, I have setups that I like, and that's my favorite setup, right? So it's like sushi, $8, $12. Thank you for the 50%. You know what I mean? Like, you can do that over and over again. Comp, $1.50 to $2.40. Thank you very much. Like, that's just, those are nice trades, and they still look perfectly set up to do that. So those are the types of trades that I take. Even synthetics, which has probably some of the most, I don't know, protocol and regulatory risk, whatever kind of risk you want to talk about, $9, $10, $15, plus 50%. Like, that's plus 50% on 3 different liquid major blue chip assets. So when I'm looking at DeFi, that's the type of stuff that I look for. So small brain, hopefully big profit.
No, I think makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about? Anything?
We do have a confirmed daily Kuma breakout on ETH, which is,
Can you show it to us?
honestly breathtaking.
Let's get some cloud FOMO.
So I take a sigh because I love the Kuma breakouts, but the issue here is we are so far away from the mean on the downside now. We've overshot everything so hard that the mean is at 2,400. The cloud isn't bullish yet. Like, we've moved for the daily in these settings, we've moved so fast, too quick, really. So I'm a buyer on any dips down to 24. I mean, look at this. This is parabolic almost. It's like 90 or 45 degree angle. Anything down to 24.50 is a buy on ETH. If we get down there, I don't know. It just, we're getting more and more overbought. Not that I'm like bearish, but getting signs of a bear div here slowly. We're not like cruising higher on RSI. So I don't know. I'd be careful here. I definitely don't want to leverage long this up here, for sure.
The more I think about it, I think the fundamental setup for ETH is so damn good, and the price action is good enough that I think I'm starting to lean that Ethereum hits price expiration again this year, and we hit ETH 8888. That's my sometime in Q4 number. And when I think, when I think of how things look in life with Ethereum at $8,888, like, makes me want to own more Ethereum. That's my like continuation narrative. Assume we don't have a recession. Assume yada yada yada. You know, like that's what I think is possible. I think it's that strong.
I'm speechless. I got nothing to say.
It just looks. It looks really good, man. It just looks really freaking good. We should have died. We should be dying right now. Like the legislation, the whatever you want to call it, but like we're just keeping the printers on. We're keeping the printers on, Josh. Actually, I'm gonna do something I never do.
I like 7. I don't know about 8, but I can see 7.
I mean, I like, but I mean, I'm happy. I'm a happy.
I'll take 7. I'll say it like that.
Camper in either one. Where is this freaking? I do it so rarely that I can't even find a tool. A weekly fib extension.
That's what I just did. It's between 7 and 8.
It's almost like we have some kind of intuition for this stuff. Yeah, the 2.618 on the weekly. If you go wick to wick, 8,700. The long extension is 14K. If you do the classic crypto 4.618. That's your overextended Ethereum. Don's actively selling his coins right now. That's why he's not talking.
No. I honestly, I think like it's time to just. I mean, as long as Bitcoin's bullish, ETH's gonna probably gonna go up. So I mean, I don't mind. Like you talk your bullish stuff. I'm saying like 3.2K. That's literally where I said the complacency bounce would be, and we're talking mad complacent right now.
I know. But what if it's
who
not?
knows?
What if it's not?
I don't want to be bearish, is what I'm saying. It's just like I usually don't have a problem being bearish when I think like something's topped or whatever. But like I don't feel like it's topped. So
Well, my problem is it. Like I said, this is intra week. It's early in the week. It doesn't mean it's going to close. But the 20 week and the 200 day are my like stalwarts, right? And if we maintain this type of above the 200, above the 20 week type of stuff, then I think the other stuff is inevitable. ETH already led the way. It already showed strength. It looks insane on a relative basis. This ETH BTC weekly chart is just something different. And when I combine all of that, it makes me think, yes, we're in a resistance area, but I'm also choosing to be bullish at resistance because I think the chances of flipping it are relatively high.
As long as we don't start talking about the e-flipping again,
I don't
go up.
We don't have to talk about the ETH flipping until we
Don't even say that word.
Yeah. Get over 0.1 and then the drums will beat firmly again. But just like in general, it just looks freaking nuts to me. Like it just looks good in the face of there's so many reasons to be bearish right now. Like over the past month, the regulatory landscape in China, the regulatory landscape in the U.S. Like there couldn't be two worse places to have a crackdown. So many reasons that you could be bearish, and it's shrugging things off, and it makes me wonder, like, are we truly gonna have another leg in this sucker?
Double bubble, baby.
I mean, I've been saying, but who knows? Like the thing is, like, we should have died when we broke 29K, right? When we broke down 30K, that was like when this could have easily rolled over, and it didn't. And whenever you have that kind of situation where, like, I mean, one, sentiment flipped super, super bearish, and two, like, the chart looked really shit and it just didn't die. Whenever you have that, and the same thing happened at like 10K, right? If you remember back, like at 12K, like it looked pretty shitty. It broke down to 10K and still looked shitty. But it never broke down because Sailor was buying. And I mean, below 30K, same thing happened. It looked really bad, should have broken down, didn't. And I mean, that's a pretty strong signal, right? And until you get like strong indication that something's changed again, which would be like kind of a break below 40K for me, I mean, why kind of fade that momentum? I don't see the point.
I think the only type of fractal that could still be in play if you're trying to point at something else would be like early 2020, pre-COVID. We looked like we were recovering there and wanted to go, and you could make some kind of comparison between these two moves. Maybe if the stock market chooses a reason to die, right? Then you can go from like 50K to 20K. That would really screw, like this. If this fractal played out, that would screw over a lot of people.
You know, the DXY is bullish. Coin is up big today, Coinbase stock. Hood is flat. These are all things like for people to watch. Ancillary things. What else on the legacy side of things? Silver's down. Gold had a big, I don't think we talked about gold at all, but
gold got wrecked.
Down spike.
But we don't know why, do we?
I don't think so.
No, it's just love future selling, but I don't know like why or who did it.
People buying digital rocks instead of real rocks.
I think like that entire argument, like, okay, this can break down if like the traditional markets break down. Like, I think that's true, but it's like, it's so like calling a bear market in the traditional markets is just like, yeah, I don't.
I mean, just look at it. We talk about this all the time, but it's like, it's up only. It's just like,
yep.
It's just a grind northwards.
at some point it's going to correct, right? It always does. It's just like the question of, okay, is it even going to correct to like the point where we are right now, right? Let's say this goes up another 2x and then corrects like 40%, and people are going to be like, "Ha, I told you so," but it's still going to be higher than current prices. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
go ahead.
I was just say I've been steadily putting on like short hedges with options in my legacy degenerate account while also being long crypto or other high volatility stuff, and like I'm making money hand over fist even though my like index puts are slowly dying, and it's like I'm fine with that, you know, because if we get the turbo nuke and it's like an elevator down one week, I'll make bank on those and hopefully make up for some of the losses elsewhere. That's the only way I know how to play it, and it's expensive but it works.
Yeah, I don't know. That market looks scary. BTC looks scary. These aren't things that I traditionally would.
These are things you do. These are things you do when after you print trillions and trillions of dollars, then you print trillions and trillions more dollars. I have a check in my wallet right now from the U.S. Treasury that I thought was fake, and I was like, "What is this?" And it's like they sent our family for some money for something. I don't even know what it was, and it's like, why? And it's.
The child tax credit, maybe.
Yeah, I think it is from a couple of years ago, like based on tax filings 2 years ago. And I'm like, all right, you know, like they're just dishing it out, man. And now we got infrastructure. We're hesitating to end unemployment benefits. Like the print is on bipartisan spending. They want to pretend they're paying for it by taxing crypto, and every single one of us knows that that's not going to help anything with actually getting money out of crypto. So
it's such a small percentage of the trillions that they're asking for too.
Yeah, like, but it's going to be 90% of the narrative.
Who do they think they're kidding? Like this isn't going to pay for anything. It's just so bizarre. That is where the line in the sand is, you know?
Yeah.
Hilarious.
All right. Should we leave it there?
Yeah, I don't really have anything else. Buy the dip, right? I guess that's all there is to it.
If we get it. It's good enough advice. Financial advice from Carpe Noctem. Just kidding. Not financial advice. Also, thank you to FTX for being our partners for Weekly Open. You can catch the replay on weeklyopen.com. weeklyopen.com/FTX to